Yellow everyone, and welcome back to this week's project. So this week we're gonna work on this pet shop house. This piece really inspired me to do an overgrown house with a tinted aquarium, as if it was so dirty that the glass changed color. And the fact that it's missing the door, it kind of helps. The stone mic engraving also gave me a lot to work with my ideas. So, like always before painting, I take everything apart so it will be easier to paint the little crevices. This is usually really time consuming, but since I want to change a lot of stuff, I didn't mind doing it this time. So, with a little bit of muscle grease, I was able to rip apart the first part from the base. There's also the fact, I don't know for you guys, but I've never seen a butterfly or a mouse in an aquarium. And since I still wanted to give the feeling that there was water in the aquarium, I needed to remove them. And the first thing I wanted to tackle was the mouse. Cause don't you worry, I will repurpose it in the house. I just think it's too cute not to keep it. It was a pain to get out though. As for the butterfly, I wanted to repurpose it, so I took the air drying clay out and I'm going to try to attempt to do a fish. It's kind of tricky because I don't have a lot of place to work with, but also I need to work around the shape of the butterfly, which is really weird. But with some time and patience, I was able to make something that looks like a fish. I know it's not super good, but I messed with it so much, I think it's the best it's gonna look like. Next thing on the agenda before painting is getting rid of this. With my Google search, I was able to find that this part is supposed to be a drawer, but right now it looks nothing like a drawer, so I want to remove it. Cause sorry to disappoint, but I'm not gonna attempt to do one. It was also just so hard to get off. At one point I was just mad and wanted it off, so I just took it and ripped it off. But I didn't think about the fact that the plastic is old and it just break. But fortunately for me, I wanted to do a rock and air drying clay. I probably would not have placed it right there, but I think it adds a little bit more to the build and to the opening part that I don't mind. Well, don't mind is a big word because I don't think I would have placed it right at the opening spot, but it works. So now that I've added everything I wanted to add and removed everything I wanted to remove, we can finally start painting. So of course, I don't want to paint on the glass part of the aquarium, so I'm just gonna mask some parts so the paint doesn't get on the surface. And then I'm just gonna start with the base coat on everything. I had already mixed some colors that I'm not gonna use, so I'm just gonna use that as a base color so I can just use it or else it'll just go to waste. Since I wanted to have a more woody feeling to my house, I just did it a little bit more brown than the actual color I'm gonna use for the stone. But technically it's really similar. I also just think that old wood doesn't really look like wood, so I think I gave myself more liberty for the colors and texture of the wood. When I was done with that, I started with the big stone I made, and then followed with the little engraved stone that were already all around the house, without forgetting the little thing I took off earlier. For me, this little section gave me the feeling of an open deck, maybe made in concrete, like the one on the roof. So that's what I was trying to do right here. I then went with a light dry brush around some area to give more dimension to the rocks. And then finish with a green gray for the part that I considered as fabric. I again based the colors off what I felt fabric would look like, not attended for 100 years, and I had the feeling that the green of the plant would stain a little bit over the fabric, so there you go. I then did the same first step for the inside. I also usually get rid of all the stickers, but there was so much I had the feeling would take me a whole day just to get rid of that. But there was also the fact that for the wall, I wanted to give a wallpaper feeling since it was so popular back in the days, that I thought if the sticker wrinkles or break, it would give more dimension and make it more convincing. So for my wallpaper effect, I wanted to go with a yellowish white. Not like a yellow like people were smoking in here for years, but yellow enough. I did that for everything that I wanted to consider as wall. I did the same thing for the attic. I was a little bit unsure there because I didn't know what was a roof and what was a wall, but I think I'm okay with what I gave for what. Then, when I was satisfied, I went with a brown that I diluted in water. I'm then just going with my brush and tapping the water out. If I want to make my house look rundown, I need to put some water damage or something, so I thought it would be perfect. I also could not really see what I was doing, and I tried to move my light, but I think it'd make it worse for you guys, so I'm really sorry about that. But I think this process is so cool and was one of my favorite part to do. So I'm gonna still show you guys. I also didn't want to forget these things, so I painted them brown like a wood pillar and then used the same paint to do the roof part. For the roof though, I didn't want to dilute the color too much. Since the sun and everything wasn't working against it in time, I thought it would have kept more of its original color. Same thing with the floor. Also, at the same time, this house is so big and prestigious, I needed to do some big, massive brown floor, you know? And with a lighter color, I just did some little squiggle around to give it the wood texture I desired. Still in the painting process, I thought that the colors of the aquarium were a little bit too bright. So I ended up taking everything apart and changed the colors at the same time. I didn't want to do a lot because I still had a lot to do, but I just thought that the colors would clash too much if I kept it like that. That's also the same time I decided to paint my little fish and decided to do the same color as the crab. You know, a fish and a crab could still look colorful even though everything looks really dirty. And now that this part is done, we can go back and put every pieces together and move on to the final touches. Like putting this thing back in place. First thing I wanted to add were some rundown books. Really easy to do but time consuming, so I didn't do as much as I wanted to do. And after folding some in place and give it a little bit more color on some, I chose the side we were going to see and put a white cardboard to act as the paper, and when I was satisfied, I just put it in place. I also thought it would be so cute to add some mail on the ground. And this was so easy, I could have just put a bunch on it. But I had the feeling as the more I stack onto another, the less it looked like mail and just a pile of miscellaneous stuff. So I decided to be careful with my placement and not put as much. I didn't forget to put my aquarium in place. I then did my little mouse black and placed it in place. And now we're on to the fun part, the moss. Can I say that every time I've worked with moss, I've not been able to touch it? Like, I think it's so gross and it gives me like chills. And the fact that I'm using glue and it would just stuck everywhere, ugh. I really hated it, but it looks so pretty. So I won't complain too much for this part and place it on the inside and the outside. I'm gonna try to show you as much as I can without being too long because I think it's just so cute and cool to see it like grow around. So if you want to skip, please go ahead because I think it's just really cool and I think people would like to see that. I'm still gonna only show you the front part and maybe another part, but that's it. And when that was done, I just went with some little branch that I placed carefully. And that's it. We're on to the final shots. Let's go!